Living in Virginia, you're in the fast lane on the information superhighway. We've invested $3 billion in Virginia's broadband network to give you one of the fastest internet connection speeds in the world, so you can build relationships, bring new business to our state, and meet the future of education. It's amazing what we can do together. Visit VCTA.com to learn how broadband connects the Commonwealth.
Welcome to a special edition of Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association. I am Woody Evans. Today we are featuring a number of students from the Puller Institute, dedicated to Senator Toddy Puller, who served 24 years with great distinction in the Virginia House of Delegates and the Virginia State Senate. These young leaders are junior and senior high school students from Northern Virginia who are represented by Senator Scott Serval of the 36th District. While here in Richmond, they are watching the legislative process both in the House and Senate, meeting with policymakers and visiting historical sites. Welcome. I will introduce you in this order. Welcome, Alejandro Simshak. Good to see you. And I think you attend Hayfield High School, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Wilfredo Villatora.
Yes.
Welcome, sir. And you also attend Garfield, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Jenna El Shami, you attend West Potomac.
Yep.
And least but not last, of course, last but not least, Cameron Clark from West Potomac.
Yes.
They're laughing at me in there. Understand that you attended a Courts of Justice Committee meeting recently.
Yes, we did. We heard a lot of bills about marijuana usage, the fines that some senators want to make the fine lesser, and some disagree with that because they don't want to decriminalize it. We also heard a bill about DNA testing right after like being convicted of at least a misdemeanor. And that one was interesting because they had the parents of Hannah Graham come and speak on behalf of it, and Hannah Graham actually went to West Potomac. So our sponsor, Miss Bocard, taught her, and that's like, she grew up in my neighborhood, and that was interesting to see.
And you also met with the governor, I understand?
Yes, we did. He spoke to us about education and his opposition to the Tim Tebow bill, which was interesting. And yeah.
And you also attended that same committee hearing, I understand.
Yeah, it was really interesting. There were multiple bills, and I was impressed with how efficient the courts committee was as well. They got through bills, and they had people speak for and against. I actually thought that the eminent domain bills were actually kind of interesting as well. And then Senator Serval actually proposed some bills, one dealing with child support for independent contractors. And so I believe they're under a different either tax status, or they don't have to file a W-2 form, but it would have them do that so it's easier to collect child support from those.
And Wilfredo, I understand that you've met some interesting people since you've been here.
Yes, yesterday we met two former delegates. One of them was a Republican and one of them was a Democrat, Chris Edmondson and Chris Saxman. It's really interesting because somehow when you study politics in high school, or like you have the opportunity to get into a topic, it's like a really different perspective on reality. And I feel like the opportunity to see them talk to each other, their personal stories, how do they feel when they were in the House of Delegates. It was really interesting to see how they interact as in reality. Like, see people running around, it's like different than news.
And Alex, I understand you observed 40 people running around in the Senate at one point.
Yeah, I did. It was real cool. You saw the new Lieutenant Governor, Justin Fairfax, directing debate during one of the bills when they were talking about it. And it was really cool how the senators were addressing Justin Fairfax instead of talking to the other senator. For example, if Scott Serval was arguing with Senator Chase, he would say, the president, in terms of well, he would basically address Justin Fairfax first. I'm not sure what the actual formal phrase was. It was cool to sit there in the gallery and think about the hundreds of years of other senators and other General Assembly men who stood on those same podiums and sat in the same seats and had debates about the bills of the day.
The home of Thomas Jefferson, believe it or not. Tell us what has been the biggest surprise for you since you've been here.
The biggest surprise for me, which I feel like shouldn't be a surprise, was just how efficient the state government runs, because being so close to DC, I'm used to watching how Congress functions and it's very slow. So to see how the state government actually gets things done, it seems like a lot quicker, was very interesting, and it has made me appreciate state government a lot more.
Jenna, what have you learned overall about state government since you've been here?
Well, I think that I've learned mainly that it's fairly similar to the federal government, and along with Cameron, it is very efficient, which surprised me as well. But it's same kind of setup. We don't necessarily cover it that much in school, but I think it's great that we can relate it, and since it's so close to home, it really affects us as well.
Wilfredo, this place operates a whole lot better than our friends in Washington, D.C. I take it you agree with that?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit, though, about your involvement in politics, why you decided to get involved in this program and come to Richmond.
One of the main reasons for my interest in politics is I was born and raised in El Salvador, and pretty much politics is a daily topic and every conversation we have. Once I came here, I had the opportunity to talk about politics itself, and I feel politics somehow, when you talk to the senators, when you talk to the House of Delegates, it's really important because they have a common goal, and is to help people to make the best for Virginia. And I feel that idea is like what makes me want to get into politics, want to apply for this program and know how their ideas can impact, for example, the Secretary of Education. How can he impact us as students and our future careers in college?
And what issues affect you as a high school student, you think, that you may have heard debated here?
Well, there was the Tim Tebow issue, and I'm not homeschooled, but the bill pertains to homeschooled kids. Basically, the idea was that some people were opposed to the idea that homeschooled kids should be able to play on football teams in public schools. And so that was really cool. We asked Ralph Northam about that. We talked about why he was opposed to that idea. And then also we talked to the Secretary of Education about rising tuition costs for college, about how his department is trying to make it more affordable for kids our age, and dealing with student loans, maybe going to community college as an alternative, things like that.
Cameron, the rising cost of higher education, is that something that's a big impediment to you, you think?
Yes, definitely, because of student loans and just the burden that it puts on my parents, because I have another sibling and most families do, so that's a lot of money to try and put multiple children through schools when it's so expensive.
What about you, Jenna? I assume that would be an impediment as well?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I have siblings as well, and I think it discourages some people just because they don't want to have to pay student loans, and I think that it definitely affects way more people than it should.
You made an interesting comment about how interesting eminent domain was. Tell us a little bit more about that discussion.
So I actually wasn't 100% sure, about the function of eminent domain or really much about it, but I think that it's interesting that they can just take the land and then pay you for it, and I didn't realize how it affects businesses as well as landowners. If the landowner was different from the business owner, how their settlements would work out and how you can prove that you have lost profit. I just thought it was interesting to kind of see that side of things.
Well, Fredo, what do you intend to pursue when you get to college?
I have a couple options right now, but one of the major ones is to go into the political science field and work into the state government, or like into the state government as legislator maybe. Another option is to go to university and study like medicine and become a psychiatrist to help people with mental illness. That is a big problem in America as we develop as a society.
And Alex, I understand that the Puller Institute requires you, when you return home, to make a 10-minute presentation about what you learned here. Do you have any idea about what you're going to talk about yet?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about it the whole time, and I'm kind of stumped, but a couple of kids have decided, they've given me good topics to think about. For example, I'm really interested in the idea about higher education, the issues with the Tim Tebow bill about homeschooled kids, maybe something about kids, maybe like a bill that would be better, more bipartisan. things like infrastructure, things like that. As we one of the main goals of actually the federal administration right now is an infrastructure bill, and how will that affect us? We actually had a lobbyist from Transurban come and talk to us about that. So there's a bunch of issues right now, and I haven't really decided on one. But it's nice to know that there's a lot of options I could take, and a lot of really important issues that are going on in Virginia right now.
And Cameron, what about you? Have you decided on a topic to discuss when you get back?
Yes, I kind of came up with my topic beforehand, which was to try and implement some sort of statewide police training, which we haven't talked much about on this trip, but that's something that I really care about, and I know that the Virginia Justice Department already has mandates in place, but it doesn't seem like every police academy in Virginia is following them, so something that would make it more clear.
And Jenna, what about you? What topic do you think you might take home?
Well, I think the link between hunger and grades is really important. So I started a food pantry last year at my high school, and I think that either mandates or grants or just money for after-school programs that have options for students to stay after if they are on free and reduced lunch and need meals after school, or money just to start food pantries, or just anything along those lines.
And Fredo, what about you?
During the meeting with the Democrat delegate, Chris Amundson, we were talking about education, and she said something about education is the only way to develop as a society in the economical field, political and social. So I feel like when we're in America today, especially for undocumented students that come to Virginia, they live in Virginia for so many years, and they go to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. Once they get out of high school and pursue a career in college, they're obligated to pay out-of-state tuition due to their legal status, which is which is a really impediment for students that cannot afford that amount of money, like to pay 100% more of the actual price in state tuition. So I feel if I were to choose a bill that will be related to allow them to pay in-state tuition and have more opportunities to pursue a college career, that will benefit not only them but Virginia in general.
And Alex, the last few years here, one of the debates in terms of education at K-8 and high school has been standards of learning. What kind of impact have those tests had upon you as a high school student?
Well, generally the consensus amongst high school students, whether you really believe it or not, is that standardized testing stinks. Nobody really enjoys it. Nobody really likes to sit down and do Scantrons. When we talked to the Secretary of Education, someone brought that issue up, and I think it made a really good point that there has to be a minimum standard that you hold all students accountable for. But it is also important to understand that people learn different ways, people have different strengths, and so if you all hold them to the same level, not all of them are going to be shown equally according to their actual intelligence. There's some kids who might excel in science, but the way that the test is set up, he can't understand that. And so he basically said it'd be a cool, almost like a mix. You have an idea like of standardized testing. You hold people to a basic standard, but at the same time, you have a way to adapt to different fields of education or different fields of interest.
I take it you would agree with that, or do you have a different opinion?
I agree with his opinion. I definitely dislike our standardized tests and like SOLs, and I'm not really sure how they would be fixed, but I think that the Secretary of Education has an interesting idea.
And what about you in terms of SOLs?
I definitely agree. Standardized tests are not my forte, but we all have to take them, and I think that it's definitely a step in the right direction to adjust them to the way people learn.
Well, you know what's interesting about the standards of learning? There are only 2 members in the General Assembly, I think, who've ever been subject to them. They are the younger members. So maybe that's why we have problems. We will continue this discussion after a short break with other students from the Puller Institute. Thank you.
The ability to connect fuels our lives. And in Virginia, we connect faster than almost anyone in the world. Our peak average internet connection speeds put us in an elite class, both in the United States and across the globe. Broadband in Virginia helps us learn bigger, work smarter, and love uninterrupted. Visit VCTA.com to learn how broadband connects the Commonwealth.
If you're just joining us, we're continuing our discussions with students from the Puller Institute. They represent Northern Virginia, and they are represented by Senator Scott Serval. Welcome to you all. I want to introduce first Hadra Uzger. You attend Edison High School, I believe, Hadra. And Camille Santa Ana, West Potomac. Is that correct? Uver Boudoir. You attend Potomac Senior High School, and Ruby Madison Ford, also Potomac Senior. I'll start with you, Ruby. I understand you all met with the governor. Were you impressed with Governor Ralph Northam?
Yes, I was really impressed. He's a really intelligent man, really friendly. He has a lot of good ideas to, further the Commonwealth and make us a better state as a whole. So yeah.
What's your experience been like so far here?
So far here, it was really great meeting with so many different people who have such an authority and so much involvement in making decisions for us. And we met a lot of senators and a lot of legislature, and it was really nice to meet them and understand how the Senate works.
And Camille, I take it your experience has been a good one so far?
Yes, it was very interesting to see a hands-on perspective on what the Senate and delegates, just our legislators do every day, and get their side of their work.
And Hadra, what has impressed you? And I know you like to talk about policy issues as well, so
Yeah.
we're here to listen.
I think it was a really enlightening experience, just hands-on experience with a different facet of government that isn't as explored as, Congress and the House of Representatives, but most of the policy that's enacted in Senate and the House of Delegates most directly impacts us. So it was really interesting to see how the legislation crossed party lines and how direct it was, the impact on people's lives.
Ruby, what did you think your experience would be like before you got here, and what has it been?
I thought it was gonna be, uptight, I want to say, but everybody was really super, super friendly and very inviting. After I did this, it has opened my eyes to what you all actually do, the amount of work, the passing of the bills, the process of how it goes, and everything like that.
And Camille, what has impressed you the most?
Orvie, sorry.
Orvie, I'm sorry.
Impressed me. Probably is going off on her. It was really impressive to see how cool everyone is. They're very friendly. They're very nice too, and they have a lot of insight to show you and a lot of advice to give you just on just in general in life and how politics is and everything.
Camille, have there been any surprises for you here?
I think it's surprising to see kind of what the senators and delegates are like outside of the work and how passionate they are about the issues, and especially helping us understand them, because it's one thing to read about in the textbook, but we actually got to meet them and have hands-on discussion with them about topics that we actually cared about.
And Hadra, have you had an opportunity to attend any committee meetings?
Yes, so we sat in on the Judiciary Committee, I believe, and we saw some really interesting bills. A lot of them overlapped, different stances on the same issue, some variation in that. So we heard one about the decriminalization of marijuana, which is something I'm passionate about. We heard some stuff on eminent domain and just lots of variation of things. And I thought it was really interesting to see how the committees deliberate.
And Ruby, have you been able to attend a committee meeting dealing with education, for example?
We were not able to attend one of those, but I did hear that the other groups did, and then they talked about issues sunscreen use in school, and whether a homeschooled child should be able to play sports at other schools and stuff. That I found that really interesting. Yeah.
What topics here affect you as a high school student, you think?
As high school, we met with the Secretary of Education, and he talked a lot about college and going into how it's a lot of money, and he's trying to make bills and propose things to make it cheaper for kids. So we're seniors and we're about to enter college, so that's very relevant to me because I want to make sure I have affordable college education and a good one. So that was really interesting to talk
And
about.
Camille, is the rising cost of college an impediment to you?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely interested to see like how Carrie tackles the problem, especially since it affects me personally and like I think all of us as high school seniors. Yeah.
And Hadra, are you at the point where you're applying for college, and to what extent does student debt put a damper on things?
Yeah, I mean, I am currently in the process of, all my applications have been submitted, so now I'm in the waiting period, and it definitely does factor in, because when it comes down to it, college is an investment for your future, so you want to make the right economical decision so that later you're not burdened with student loans and debt. So the finances of it, it's important. It's hard to make decisions that are potentially going to impact you 10 years down the line when you're just 17 or 18 years old.
Ruby, what about community colleges? They do offer opportunities that cost less. For example, there are trades that one can enter, high-tech trades, for example, cybersecurity. I understand with a 2-year degree from community college, you can start off working at $80,000 a year. Is that something that would be attractive to you?
Yes, at our school actually we do have a NOVA pathway program. We have like a person for it. I did hear a lot about it. It is really attractive to me, but I was looking to four-year school, but I do think it is a really good option, especially if you want to save money.
What about community college?
I think it's a very great idea, and I don't like how people put down community colleges in society today, because like in Northern Virginia, for one of the centers, you can do like neuroscience, and it's like you can earn a lot of money straight out of like community college. I personally think it's a great idea, but I just wanted to do a 4-year college, so that's why I'm not doing community college.
And Camille, what about community college?
Yeah, I think the NOVA's Pathways program is it's a big part of at least my school in general, and it makes community college like very attractive as an option. Personally, I wanted a 4-year school, but I know with a lot of with like the Pathways program and everything, you're like guaranteed to transfer, and I think that could be like a very viable option for a lot of people in our school district.
That's a good point, Hadra, because we are blessed here in the Commonwealth with great community colleges. And as she pointed out, to the extent you maintain a certain grade point average, you're guaranteed admission to one of our institutions of higher learning. There are tuition assistance grants that go along with that. So for some people, at least, that's a viable option.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And also, I think that community college is a means of like helping you decide where you want to go in life. Like all of us here, we have the privilege of, at least to some extent, knowing what we want to do in life. We're all here, so we've expressed an interest in politics. For me, like politics is my passion. That's what I want to go into later on in my career. But for somebody who hasn't quite discovered their thing yet, community college is a great way to kind of ease into the rest of their career.
Ruby, I know one of the requirements of the Puller Institute relates to a 10-minute presentation you will have to make once you get back home. Have you decided on a subject matter that you want to discuss?
I haven't decided on a subject matter, but I have decided on an area of what I want to focus on. I think I want to focus on education, because I feel like we have certain problems that I can understand because I am in school right now. And so, yeah, I'm going to option.
And Ruby, have you selected a topic for discussion?
Yes, similar to Ruby, I also want to do education, but personally I want to focus on integrating, like instead of only STEM, having arts and performing arts.
Science, technology, engineering, and math,
yes.
Correct?
Except that having more of like arts and performing arts into school curriculums, because that's a really good way for kids to like learn more about their lives.
And Camille, what about you in terms of the subject matter?
Very similar to them, I have decided I want to focus on education. Specifically, I was looking at the possibilities of creating a system in which 2-year community college would be tuition-free for students in the Commonwealth, and seeing kind of how that would impact our current situation and what opportunities that could bring to Virginia.
And Hadra, what about you?
So I'm kind of split. I have two ideas. On the educational route, I was considering just enforcing a more fluid translation of like test scores. So we have like IB curriculum, we have AP, we have ACE. So sometimes test scores don't necessarily transfer well to college credit. And so if we could establish like a system where kids are getting their rightful credits for the classes that they take, I'd be interested in that. And then other than that, like away from education, I'd be really interested in something increasing access to feminine hygiene products for people in the Commonwealth, because reproductive health is an issue that impacts all of us, not just women.
Great. And Ruby, give us a better idea of that project you're going to work on. I know you mentioned education, but was there anything more specific you were thinking about?
Probably something along the lines of online class, because I know personally in my school we have ACE classes, which is like a Cambridge, it's like an England thing, and we don't have like an AP calculus, but we have an ACE 1, which is kind of the equivalent. But I know a lot of people want to take calculus, so they do it online. So I feel like if we have a big majority of people that want to take it, we should be offered the class. And I feel like
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I feel like it should be offered to everybody that wants to take it.
Ruby, has your interest in politics been enhanced since you've been here? Do you see yourself maybe running for political office one day?
Yeah, for sure. I don't personally see myself running for political office, but it was great learning more about politics, because that's a field that I'm very interested in. So it was great to meet people who were passionate about it too, and just learning a lot from them.
Camille, what about you? You think you might be interested in running for office?
I'm definitely like very passionate about politics. I don't know if I'm going to run for office. We'll see. But I think this program was a really good way to help me like solidify my path and see what I would actually be doing instead of just hearing about it. Yeah.
Hadra, you want to become a policymaker. It sounds like a good place to start is the House of Delegates.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's kind of like the underdog in the political sphere, in that, again, the national aspect of politics, Congress, they get most of the attention, when really just like coming here to Richmond and looking at the Senate proceedings, and I noticed how the policy enacted here really has the most impact on Virginians.
Ruby, you're going to run for office?
Maybe.
Well, we need more women on the ballot.
We need more women, especially minorities. I'll think about it.
Great. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you all. Good luck. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you do pursue politics. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this special edition of Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.
Mm-hmm.